Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome again to the HBL Sales and Implementation Training Program. We've been here on this for the past 3 days now, and we are happy the class is progressing and we are all learning. Like we've discussed over time, this initiative is from the Oyasin Group and championed by the Talent and Systems subsidiary of the Oyasin Group. Today, we'll be having our class on inventory management and manufacturing 1, and our instructor is readily available to take us through this module. Our instructor for today is Lami Ibrahim, and she'll be explaining the modules to us after this. Thank you. Lami, you have the floor, please.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. And you're welcome again. I think it's our second time. Yeah. My name is Lami, and I'm going to be taking inventory management and manufacturing. Since these two are actually buying and production system, we're going to be running more on practical, and I believe this class will be as interactive as possible. So before we go to the practical angle of it, I would like to share my screen and introduce the modules for us properly. So you're welcome once again, and we're taking inventory management and manufacturing today. So let's run through our content for this class. First, we're going to be looking at the stock introduction generally, stock transaction, stock reports, bill of material, otherwise known as BOM, and also we're going to be looking at work order. Now, generally, inventory management, otherwise known as So I was saying generally, inventory management involves the management of an organization material, how the material comes in, how this material is being used and taken out, how they are able to manage this material. In every organization, inventory management is very important because this way, that organization is able to know what they are making from what they have in stock to avoid wastage and also to avoid non-profitable business as well. So the advantage of using the Oyasin system to track your inventories, it maintains details of your production and warehouse. Please let me know when you can hear me.
It's not really clear, like the voice is not really clear. If you speak up.
Okay. So what about now? Okay, I was saying that inventory management involves the management of your raw materials, how these materials are being used, how this material actually came in, and what you're actually making from these materials you brought in. So the advantage of using the Oyasin system to track your inventory, one of which is it maintains and gives details of your products, both the ones in the warehouse, the ones that have been used, and it also prevents wastage. And as well, it prevents having unnecessary productions, producing things that are really not in use, things that are not really necessary in the organizations. It tracks receipt, transfer, and delivery of the products. It helps you to track which of the suppliers actually bought what and what time the supplier actually bought what they bought. Now, in an organization, the level of inventory actually differs in every organization. Depends on how big and broad this organization is. There are organizations that have about 4 warehouses before it gets to the final stage. We have organizations that run through warehouse 1, warehouse 2, warehouse 3 before it actually gets to the final stage. So it actually differs for every organization. Other organizations actually have just one production system, just one warehouse, from the main warehouse or the store, as you can see as well, from the main warehouse to the finished goods directly. Now the finished goods now is the final stage of production, which means this particular product is ready and can be sold. I'll communicate. So before I go into further details, I would introduce us to the different warehouses we have available on the system. Like I said, in every organization, the organization size actually differs. Some organizations have a very broad way and where details way to make. Hello. Every organization have different stages. So on the ERP, we have 4 different warehouses. Let me share my screen. So this is the model we're going to work with today. That's the buying model. Like I said, this particular inventory and manufacturing class is more of buying and production. So if you go to the markets, which I believe all of us do, it's going to be like a detailed form of it in an organization. We're going to be looking at the different warehouses available on the system. So can you see my screen, please?
Yes, we can.
Hello.
Yes, we can see the screen. Please go ahead.
You can see the screen.
All right. So this is a display of the different warehouses available on the system. So these warehouses explain the process in which items go through. Now, like I said before, every organization has their processes in terms of their warehouse. We have warehouses, we have an organization that only run by one store straight to the finished goods. Now, this breakdown of warehouses explain that firstly, goods are on transit and then they get to the store. Ideally, they get to the store and then they get to work in progress. That is, they are still in production. That's for a manufacturing company. For restaurants, for instance, these goods are still work in progress, but they are in the kitchen. And the final stage now is the finished goods. Final stage, which is the finished goods now, is where your main food are. This particular meal actually ready, and your waiters can actually make sales with goods here. So goods that are still in goods in transit, store and where and work in progress, obviously are not ready for sales yet. So these goods actually go through this other 3 processes before we get to the finished goods. Now, before production or even purchase, we're going to be looking at the purchase cycles as well. But before production or purchase at all, we must have a list of items we actually want to deal with. So I have my items in store here, but we're going to go through the process of adding items to the system. So we would know the process of adding items actually. So on the module, the buying module, we have our shortcuts to items already. But then there's always an option to search for our item using our search bar here. I'll be using this item here. So these are the available items. I'll be adding new item for the sake of the class. And the time. Okay. So let's say our item name for this purchase. Now, when creating an item, the item group actually varies. You can always create your item group. Let me take, for instance, a menu for a restaurant. They usually have a grouping for this menu. We have breakfast, we have appetizer. So you can always group your item. But because of inventory and my items are actually mostly raw materials, these are items that are going to be having in store. I would be selecting raw material for the item group. So over here we have a checkbox for maintain stock, which can always be unchecked if you don't want to track these items. Now, for organization or for businesses that doesn't want a particular item to be tracked, let's say for instance, we are creating salt. Some organizations actually have a detailed process of how they use their salt. They tell you they use half teaspoon for a particular meal, which by the time we get to production side, we'll look at that. So some organizations have a detailed way of actually using this item. But then tracking salt is, I don't know, depending on every organization though. So for my particular item, this is for further rice, I am going to be maintaining store because this is actually a must track item. So I'll be maintaining the stock for this item and the opening stock for this item. Now, the opening stock now, for instance, I am implementing for a new client. Now, this client wants to bring in all of their stock record down to the system. So this organization would have a stock count of their physical available items, the items they have in store at the moment. Now, the goods in transit would always come in whenever they want these items to come in. But for this particular class, this Okada rice is actually an opening stock, a stock for a client that is actually coming in new. So let's say a physical stock was done and this client adds 50 kg of Okada rice, I believe. The first unit of measurement of this rice is going to be in kg. Depends on how your client wants it. Depends on how the individual wants this rice. We've seen clients that actually measure their rice by cup, and some will say they measure it by plates. So have it in mind that this is actually a raw material. So once it's a finished goods, it is most times measured by portion. Most restaurants actually sell by portion. So for this particular raw material, it is going to be used for production, and most times it is measured by kg, cups, anyhow you want it. But for my class, for this guys, they're going to be using kg as a measuring unit. And this is the eventual part of the item. You can put your shelf life in days or however you want it. Now, after filling all of this, you save this item and you can use it for your purchase, production. Sorry, my valuation rate for a KG, let's say 200 naira. Now my rice is available as an item, not in stock, but as an item, meaning I can actually use this item. I can purchase this item, I can produce this item. It is actually available. So we've created our item and we're going to be adding our warehouse. We're seeing the default warehouse available on the system, which are the 4 available warehouses on the system: our goods in transit, our stock, our finished goods, and of course, our work in progress. So we're going to be adding a new warehouse for a client that has broad way of producing different warehouses. For instance, in some restaurants or organizations, they have a warehouse for that. They have a different warehouse for different cost centers. So we're going to search for our warehouse and add it. Let's say my warehouse name is going to be bar. And my warehouse will be attached to, okay. So you can, if you have an instance that has different company attached to it, you have different companies available on this warehouse or on this instance, you can always choose your company. You can come here and change your company name. Now, if your organization or your restaurant is an organization with different warehouses spread across different locations, you can always add the address for every warehouse and go in details for your warehouse. So the next thing we're having on our content is actually price list. When creating an item, be it a menu or a raw material, there are always options for selling price. We always have options for selling price, standard selling price, and standard buying price. Depends on which area these items are actually falling. Like for instance, your selling price are usually asking for your menu price, like let's say fried rice. So these are my item price list. To add a new item price, it is actually important to add this while creating an item. But in a situation where you don't know how much that item is worth, or you don't know how much that item is being sold, you can always come back to item price list, navigate through the buying module, and we have our item price list here. You add a new item price list. So I'm going to be selecting my previously created item, which was a father rice. And it's in kg. Per kg, let's say, I'm going to be using my standard buying price because I am actually buying this item as a raw material. I am not selling it. When it gets to a point where this item is actually a selling price, a selling item, then I select my selling price. So for now, I'm going to be using my buying price. And per kg is, what's the 500? So now these prices will always change whenever you're actually making your purchases, because we're in Nigeria and the market is not usually stable. You can go to the market today and get it for 3,000 or for 500. Let me stick to this. You can get it for 500 today, and you go to the same market tomorrow and you get it for 1,000. So there's always room for you to actually change this price whenever you're making your purchases. It is not like a compulsory price you must use in the system. So we'll see this. So right now, before we make any purchase, we are going to look at our stock balance. This stock balance will actually come with every store you save on your system. Then we'll make our purchase circle. Our purchase circle go from purchase order to purchase request, then also to purchase receipt and purchase invoice. Now these things are by processes. Now purchase order is usually raised by the procurement officer. Now this procurement officer comes up. Sorry, my device went off. So I was saying that this procurement officer comes up with a particular list on what will be needed for production. This purchase list can come up from the production needed, and these things go through the purchase receipts and purchase receipts. That is, whoever is in the warehouse, whoever is available in charge of the warehouse, documents what he or she received into the store, the quantity and the value received into the store, and then a purchase invoice is raised for this item by the accountant. Sorry, I'm trying to log in. Just touch the warehouses now. We're looking also at the procurement circle, which, like I mentioned before, from the purchase order down to the purchase receipt. We're also looking at the purchase circle from the purchase order to the purchase receipt to the purchase invoice. So now using that term to describe from the level you realized a certain item was running short. Let's use your own circle, for instance, your house, for instance. From that point when you realize that, okay, you needed beans or you needed rice, from that part down to the time you actually got this item and you prepared it, I want you to help us with the purchase terms and the warehouses this thing actually passed through before getting to that final stage.
Okay, that's when I notice that my inventory is low.
Yes, that your inventory is low.
Okay, so basically, I think I will have to make like a purchase order. So after I make the purchase order, so then the goods will now be in transit, the items will be in transit.
I can hear you, please. Can you come up more?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I said I will have to make a purchase order. Then after I make the purchase order, the items will now be in transit. Then when the item gets to me, like I think that's purchase receipt, then I'll now put it in the store. Then after I put it in the store, then when I now want to use it, I'll get it from the store. So it will be like a work in progress. So after I'm done preparing it, so I will now take it over to the finished goods warehouse for the finished goods.
Okay, all right.
So
that's fine.
I don't know, is that what you are?
Yes, that's what I was trying to get. Thank you very much for that. Okay, now.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Like I said, we are going to be using a small scale for an instance, but this also applies to whatever size of business there is. I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes.
Okay. So this cut across whatever size of business it is just the processes that are different. Now, for a big organization, by the time I raise a purchase order as a procurement officer, a procurement officer now is the person in charge of going to the market, getting these things, knowing that this thing needs to be refilled. By the time I realize that this thing needs to be refilled, and I get a purchase order as a procurement officer, for big organizations, I will need to like get a confirmation from my superior, who can be my supervisor, can be my MD. That's actually a breakdown workflow that needs to be followed. Now the system gives us the ability to tag these people without having to like write a paper and going to the MD's office, going to tell the MD that this is what we need. You don't necessarily need to do that using the system. Once a purchase order is raised, you can easily tag your MD or whoever needs to actually approve this purchase order. Not forgetting that a purchase order is actually a list of the things you will be needing in the store as a procurement officer. These are a list of the things I'll be needing in the store. So by the time I tag my superior, my supervisor, or whoever is supposed to approve this, my supervisor can say, oh, no, we have this particular thing available in another store. We don't need this. Don't worry, I'll bring this in. So that particular purchase invoice can be edited. So my supervisor has that permission to actually edit that purchase invoice that I raised. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be like, okay, this is what we want, this is what we're getting. He can as well have a different price list. Probably the price list I gave out to him wasn't what he feel I'm supposed to need. So he also has the permission to change this price list. Now, for us to raise a purchase order, I can always come to my search bar here to raise my purchase order, or I can use my shortcut over here at my buying module. There's a shortcut for purchase order over here. Now, this is the list of my purchase order from whatever dates I want. I can come here and filter the date I want to see. But for this particular business, this is the only purchase order. And this purchase order is usually an open market. Now, when a purchase order is on open market, that means I actually went to the market. It wasn't given to me by a supplier. A supplier can as well send me a purchase order. A supplier can as well, I can as well send a supplier purchase order, sorry. I can tell the supplier, I need XYZ in my store. How much? And this is the amount I need. This is the quantity I need, and this is the time I need it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be only the procurement officer going to the market. When the procurement officer is going to the market, that's when we refer to it as an open market, because this procurement officer is actually going to any market. It could be the nearest market, it could be like a branded market or something. So it is actually an open market. So this is how a purchase order looks like. Now, like the instance I made the other time, I am raising a purchase order of the things that are actually low in stock as a procurement officer. So I am going to be using my open store, my open market. And if I am going to be, if it's a big organization and I want to tag a manager, the date here will be the time I actually need, the time I'm actually raising this purchase order. Just to keep, like I said, the other thing gives room for transparency. So by the time you as the manager is getting this purchase order, it comes with a date. So you don't say, oh, I didn't get it. Oh, the date you told me you needed it wasn't what I saw. Or the date you said you raised this thing, it wasn't what I saw. So I am sticking to today. And then my required by when these items are actually really needed in store. I'm raising this today and I'm going to say I'm needing it today, which most times might not necessarily be it. So the target warehouse that I'm taking this particular item to. These are the list of warehouse. This is the warehouse we saved at the end of it. We saved a bar warehouse. Now, if I am, since I have a bar warehouse, I can say I am buying drinks. Probably some certain drinks have run short in the store, and I need some drinks in the bar. So I can select my bar house. Now, the target warehouse is where I am expecting these goods to go into. It could be store. And I can't just buy item like that, and I can't just buy item like that and take it straight up to finished goods. I am bringing it to the store to be inspected by whoever is supposed to inspect it, whoever is in charge of the store management. That's the store manager, to actually confirm that what I actually claim I bought is what he or she received. That brings us to the purchase received. So I would be using store. and you impute all the items, and the unit of measurement will come up once you select the item. Let's say, for instance, I want my ofada rice. So my ofada rice is in kg, and my rate is 500. Based on the price list we actually imputed. Now, I told you before that this price can always change. It doesn't necessarily ask to stay to 500 naira. I as a procurement officer went to the market the last time and the rice increased to 600 naira, or the government has now smiled at us and is now 400 naira. So it doesn't need to be like that. But this rate now is showing because this is the last purchase rate I imputed. So the quantity I'll be needing will be 10 kg. Other things, let's say I need tomato. Okay. Okay, I'm needing, let's say I need 12. I'll change this to 20 because when we are making production, we can always need more than that. So please, can you give me an idea of an item we can buy? Let's make this as interactive as possible, please. Hello.
Alexander.
Okay. These are numbers, so I'll put it in 2. So in a case where you actually need an item and this item is not in the system, because for you to actually purchase an item, it has to be an item in the system. So let's say I want to buy fresh tomato. And it is telling me already that fresh tomato is not in the system. So I have an option to create a new item to add this particular fresh tomato to the system for me to use. And my item group remains raw material. And it is going to be in kg. Now, when I say an item is going to be in kg, it doesn't mean that your client has to insist they measure it. Like most of these fresh items, the kitchen, the supermarket, or no, let's use a regular open market. This market don't usually have a scale available. But then when this procurement officer actually brings this item to the store, it is advisable that the store manager weigh these items and confirm the kgs before they actually save it. Because in terms of manufacturing, these items are actually deducted by kg or by whatever option your clients want. So I'm going to be saving this. And my items is available here. So I'll be needing 10 kg. So my rates for Americano will be, let's say 1.5. I know it's more than that. I know it's more than that for let's keep it like that. In the fight for a new Nigeria. Okay, so already the system is automating how much these things are actually worth by their kgs already. Now this rate here identified that these items are actually 500 naira per kg. So this 500 now is multiplied by 20 in terms of quantity and the rate. That gives us this amount. And then my required date still remains today. And I say, So already my my total amount is already here, and that tells my supervisor that I'll be needing 95,000 naira to get this item, and then I submit. So I said before that in a bigger organization, there is usually need for a workflow. That's another topic we're going to touch. But in terms of workflow, this particular item, this particular list is meant to be attached or assigned to someone who is supposed to get a mail. But we're getting there. So like, as you can see, this my purchase order now is now asking to receive and to bill. So it means this item has not been received and I haven't paid for them. So this is just a purchase order. Don't forget, it is only a purchase order. It means this is what I need. This is what the kitchen needs. We are using restaurant, for instance, here. So this is what the kitchen needs. And this is the store that needs, this is the store that needs this items. So for a bigger organization, the store that needs this item might be, store 1 might be in Magodo, and store 2 might be in Apapa. So I raise this purchase order for my store. I mean, as a procurement officer for this particular place, I raise this purchase order, and my store in, let me say, Badagry needs this. So as a purchase officer now, once I have created this, and I attach it to whoever is supposed to get this. And let's assume this person feels my rice is too expensive. Then they can now change it from their end and send it back to me, but we'll get there. So now we're done with our purchase order. And this is the list, this purchase order now is the list I am supposed to take to the market now as a procurement officer. You can print it however you want it. This is the list I'm supposed to take to the market now as a procurement officer. Now I've gotten these items and I am back to the, from the market. Then I am in the store, and my store manager now is meant to receive these items by confirming the quantity of this item I bought. Like I said before, at the market, the tomato seller doesn't necessarily have to have a scale to measure these items for me. The fish seller or whoever doesn't necessarily, maybe they sold it to me by pieces. Or this tomato now, when we go to the market, most times it is usually by baskets, or they put it in a small portion or something that you choose. So by the time I get back from the market to the store, my store manager now will weigh these items, confirming these kgs that I wrote here. Now I'm raising this purchase order and writing 10 kg. As a procurement officer, I might have bought something related before. Let's say my last market was last week, and I bought about, let's say, 3 baskets of tomato. And my 3 baskets of tomato, when I came back to the store, weighed about, let's say, 10.9 kg. So I am also going to the market now, and I am getting the same tomato. So I am assuming that, okay, let's say something fell or whatever, I need 10 kg, and this is the amount. This is the same amount I actually bought my 11.5, my 10.5 kg the previous day. So I can go to the market now and this thing actually changed. Now I get to the store, and my store officer is meant to receive this item, which is our purchase receipt. To create a purchase receipt, we can either use this create here and select a purchase receipt, or you come over here to a purchase receipt attached to this particular bill. You see a plus sign here, and then you select this. You see a plus sign, you click on it, and it takes you straight up. Now, it is advisable that when you're using this particular purchase order, the reason why we actually use this plus sign, or we use this create bar here, is because Whenever you click on this item, it actually brings forward every item that are on this list already. The store officer doesn't need to start typing this item. It brings forward all of these items. All these items I wrote here. It brings it forward. Okay, let me do a plus. So this is my purchase receipt, and these are my item. Brings forward all of the item. So this is my purchase receipt, and these are my items. These are the items I wrote when I was going to the market. And my store manager now is meant to receive this item. So now, be a big organization or a small organization or a private organization, whatever organization this is, when I am bringing an item into the store, as long as my inventory needs to be managed, whoever is in charge of my store needs to actually confirm that this items got to the store. Because by the time we're checking our stock balance, these items are actually deducted from our store. From the quantity I, as a store manager, reported came into the store. Now, every details of that purchase order has been brought forward here, down to the amount. So me, as the store person now, the store manager now, I received this item today. But then, in a case where I didn't actually receive this item today, I can always edit the dates and put probably I received it the next day, or I received it the third day, or I can always edit the dates and put the time I actually received this item. I'll confirm the items once again. Okay, you brought in, let's say I went to the market and my vendor only had 10. Okay, let's say my vendor only had 15. So me, as a store person now, I am telling my manager or whoever that I actually received 15 into the store, not 20, as claimed by the procurement officer. Now, this is what I received into the store. I put my 15 here, and I put my 10 here. Yes. So for this part, we have a rejected quantity here. Now, this rejected quantity are probably this item, by the time they go to your store, let's say for instance, the tomato is spoiled and you don't need the ones that were brought. You write the quantity that has been rejected. You type in the quantity that has been rejected here, and it's same. Then I save. And then I submit. So now I have received these items and I have accepted this item into the store. The quantity I accepted into the store are over here, and my bills are also over here. From our purchase order, we could see that we had 95,000 naira given to our purchase officer, our procurement officer. But from what I report as a store officer, I received goods worth 89,500. So one good thing about preparing this purchase order on the system, being a supervisor or whoever is in charge of seeing these circles, I can always open these purchases. I can always open this purchase receipt, and I would see who actually received what on the system. Let's say the store manager wasn't on ground, or probably we have an organization where not just one person is in charge of receiving these items. I can always come over here and I will see the name of the person that actually received this item on the system, because over here is my name displayed. So now, before we actually pay for this item, because we can see here that it's a to-bill item, it is telling us that this item is actually still on credit. We have not paid for this item. So in a situation where we have a supplier, because sometimes there are suppliers that actually supply your businesses without paying them immediately. We have suppliers that supply probably seafood, proteins. You might not pay the suppliers immediately. You might pay them probably this supplier actually supplied this item into the store. So whenever I'm making a follow-up as an accountant or as a finance person for the company, whenever I'm making a follow-up on this item, I realize and I can tell that this particular supplier is still being owed. We've not actually paid for this item. And probably we actually paid half payments. It is still going to show me that it's not complete. But before we continue or before we make payments on that, do we have any questions, please? Hello, any question, anyone? Okay, so since we don't have any question, I will just continue with this. So now we're done with our market, our purchase circle. We're done with our purchase circle, and these items are expected to be in store already because this item has been received. Now, in a situation where I am bringing in a drink, let's say I brought in, okay, we have drinks in our list, and this item, this drink will actually need to be transferred to the bar or the bar where these drinks will actually be sold. So in this case, this drink is not passing through any work in progress. This drink doesn't need to be manufactured because it's not a cocktail or a mocktail. It's actually a finished product already. I'm talking about probably Coca-Cola or wine, like Alexandra over here. So we don't need to put this item. We don't need to put this item on finished goods in transit. We are transferring this item to finished goods straight up because this item are actually ready and we can actually sell this item. So before we continue, since we don't have a question, I have a question for Mr. Kende. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kende. Is this still here?
I'm here. Oladimeji is here.
Okay, you are the same person.
No.
All right. My question is, can you please help us list out the procurement process, the procurement circle? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Procurement circles, please.
Looking at what you just put us
Purchase
through.
circle, rather. Yeah, purchase circle.
Okay, the first step in purchase circle is actually purchase order.
Okay. So who actually makes the purchase order?
The buyer makes a purchase order, which is being sent
buyer.
to the seller.
Huh?
Yeah, the buyer makes a purchase order. Like for instance, if I'm the one getting the goods, I'm the one that makes a purchase order, which I send to the supposed seller.
Okay. I didn't actually use a buyer in this term. Can anyone help us with who makes a purchase order?
A procurement officer.
All right.
Officer. Okay.
Yep. A procurement officer. Okay, I'm still waiting, Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, after the procurement officer must have made the purchase order sent to the seller, then the goods are being delivered, which comes with a procurement invoice and is being checked by the store manager, and necessary things that are being bought, the ones that are necessary to be weighed to actually check balance whether it conforms with the purchase order, are being weighed and checked and being stored up. That's a summary that I have.
Okay, you didn't mention purchase invoice.
I didn't get that clearly.
You didn't mention the purchase invoice. Are
I
we not
did.
going to pay for what we bought?
We have to pay for what you bought.
Okay, all right. So the purchase invoice is usually like the last part in an open market. It's usually the part that even for suppliers, it is for this open market, you cannot go to an open market where you are not a regular customer without having your phone to pay. For a supplier who is actually, let's say, your regular customer or your regular supplier, you can easily take this item without actually paying yet. For organizations, we've seen organizations where they actually make these purchases and pay later, probably at the end of the month or something for a big organization. Because I'm sure suppliers will not make such risk for company they are not very familiar with. So before I actually make payment, we would be checking our store to see how these items actually move into our store and to see how these items affect our inventory in our store. So let's check our stock balance by searching for our stock balance here. Now to get my stock balance, I can as well use my stock ledger. Now the difference between these two is that my stock balance actually gives me a sum up of the difference between these two, stock balance and stock ledger on the system, is that my stock balance actually gives me a sum up of what actually happened to that item. A sum up now, I mean how many of this item, how many quantity of this item is actually in store, how many quantity of this item has actually moved out. Now my stock ledger actually gives me a breakdown of this item as they move. Let's say, for instance, a customer came in and they bought one Coke. My stock ledger breaks it down that one Coke actually left at this time. Now my stock balance gives me a quantity of, okay, for the whole day, I sold 10 Coke left the store. Now I would check for my item I bought today to be sure that this item is actually in stock. I filter for the dates. This is actually where I filter for the dates. I might not want to see just today. If you want to see like a general report, when we get to the report part, you can see everything. But because I just want to see the item that I bought today, I would generate my new report for today. Okay, so this is my stock that I got in, but I would filter for it so we can see it properly. Can you see my father rice?
Yes.
Okay, so this is my father rice and the quantity. This is a different warehouse section on the system where I can actually select which warehouse I want to see. Now the item I brought were for stores. If I want to see the items available in finished goods, I can always filter for that. The stock balance actually generates all of these items and tell me which item is actually running low and which item has actually been brought in but hasn't been received. Or which item has actually run low on the system, has been brought, has been used, but has not been replaced. So that actually happened when you see a minus sign in this item. That's actually happened when most times that minus actually happen when, for instance, I as a procurement officer, I brought in something and the store manager, I brought in something to be used in the store and the store manager did not receive this item on the system, but then the people in the store have been using this item already. So by the time you start using this item, the system captured it that you have been using this item, but then the item has not been received in the system already. It's still reading minus. That's when you start having a minus sign over here on the system. So here we have our father rice that we just bought, and we have balance quantity as of today. We are having 65 kg available in store. And that's the value of it. And that's the value of it. Okay, the next item we got was what's the next item we got?
Fresh tomato.
Okay. All right, this is the fresh tomato we got, and we got 10 kg in because apparently the fresh tomato wasn't available in the store as at the time we went to the market. Now we brought 10 kg in, and the balance, the value of this 10 kg is 7,000 naira. So as of today, it is showing here that our in quantity is 10, our in value is 7 kg. So by the time I actually start using this item in terms of production now, manufacturing now, it will show me the out quantity. Because like I said before, once you receive this item into the system and you start making production, the system starts deducting automatically from the item available in the system. So by the time I start making production with this fresh tomato now, they start seeing a minus something here. So I haven't made any production today and I haven't made any sales today. That's why you're not seeing any out quantity over here. So that's it for the stock balance. So we are going to check on our purchase invoice now because we are all. But before we check on our purchase invoice, I would like us to look at the previous purchase order that we made. It is not showing complete the way as at this one. This first one is showing complete already, but this one isn't showing complete already. Can somebody tell me why this is not completed yet?
Because it has not been assigned.
Okay. Any other person? Why this is still showing to receive? Because we actually received this item already. So can someone tell me why this item is still showing to be received?
It has not been paid for and assigned.
No, bill is, it has not been paid for, but it is showing me both to be received and bill.
Okay, you said something like it has not yet been assigned to the supervisor or the person that is supposed to receive it.
Okay, so in a small scale business, like I said before, we don't usually need to get an approval. It is only when we have a workflow in an organization, like when my workflow in my organization is that Mr. Hay has to actually assign or approve this item before you go to the market. So in that situation, this item will be approved. It won't be writing to receive or to bill. It will be showing to be approved instead. Does anyone else want to try? Okay, the reason why we're having this is because if we remember, when I received this item into the store, I actually changed this quantity to 15. So automatically the system is still notifying me that this item has not been completely received. So whoever getting this procurement officer to do now is to still go back to the market and get my 5 kg that is remaining. Now, over here now, after I clicked on my purchase receipt, it is now showing me that I have 5 of other rice remaining yet to be received, and I'm having 2 Americano yet to be received because I as a store manager now, I claim that I only got 10 kg of fada rice and 10 bottles of Americano. I don't know if we remember that.
Yes.
Okay, so that's why it's still showing me to be received. Now, until my procurement officer now goes to the market and gets item complete, then I as a store officer now will now receive this item. Until then, these items are actually yet to be received. So probably my procurement officer went to the market, let's say a week after, or let's say the next day, to get, because the scenario I painted for the first item coming in 10 kg was that they only had, coming in 15 kg, was that they only had 15 kg available for further rice. So now let's say we're trying out another market and my procurement officer is now getting another further rice from another market, and my procurement officer is meant to be aware that this further rice I still need 5 more, and Americano I still need 2 more. So in a situation like this, I change the date. Like I said before, you can always edit the date over here and you put the date you want, and that's it. But in this case, for the sake of this class, I am not editing the date because I'm still getting it today. So I save. So the whole scenario of saving my item is because to avoid losing my documents, because definitely a document that you did not save can probably your system went over something. But once your document is on drafts, you can still edit it. Let's say I dropped my documents on drafts and I got an information that okay, I still need more, or I got an information from someone in the store that, oh, sorry, ma, they actually bought 20 kg. You were not available when this 20 kg was bought. We actually used 5 kg already. That's why you're seeing 15 on ground. So by the time my documents are on draft, I can always come and edit it, add more, or remove anything I want to remove. So now I submit. I submit this, and it completes my purchase receipt. So now we're going back to our purchase order to actually confirm that these things actually changed. Now we can see that my purchase order is only showing to view. I don't have to receive on it anymore because I actually received everything. Are you getting me?
Yes.
So now we're going to pay for this purchase, for this purchase we actually received. We didn't pay immediately because as a store officer, it is not in my capacity to actually pay for this because the procurement officer must have gotten his cash from, let's say, an accountant. This all depends on the hierarchy of the business, depends on who handles what on that business. So this procurement officer must have gotten his bill, his payment from the accountant. So I would be adding my purchase invoice. So we can as well add purchase invoice from creating the purchase invoice, or we can actually add, we can actually click on this plus sign on this purchase invoice option here. We can click on the plus sign over here, and that way we can make our payments. So I'll be using this plus sign. Like I said before, we can always search for this information. We can always search for a purchase invoice from our search bar here. But navigating through this purchase order or the purchase receipt actually gives you the opportunity to bring forward all of the information. You wouldn't have to start typing the items or typing the supplier's name. Every information involved on that particular purchase order or purchase invoice or purchase receipt has actually been brought forward here. And all you need to do as an accountant or whoever is doing this, all you need to do is just make the payments and adjust the date of whatever you want to adjust. So as usual, you can always edit the dates. I'm putting the dates here. For an instance where we have more than one company, you are expected to change your company here. But then the system allows us to actually restrict each person to a particular company. For instance, let's say I'm working with, let's say I have one instance with Oyasin, and I have about 3 restaurants attached to Oyasin, not cost centers now. I believe we understand what cost center means, right?
No, we don't. I don't understand what cost center means.
Of the companies. Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
So whenever I need to refer to a certain company in terms of their records, or maybe I'm trying to do some, maybe check out what sales they've made and whatever I'm going to edit, I can choose which of the companies I'm going to be referring to.
Okay, I would like to understand what you understand by a cost center.
Okay, what I understand by a cost center is, maybe, how do I explain this? It's quite
okay,
hard.
paint a scenario for me for a cost center.
Okay, for a cost center. Let's say I have a company, a bar, for whatever name, right?
Yes.
And then there are other bars owned by the company I work for. You get?
Okay.
So, and I need to refer to this specific bar. Let's say I have their sales for today, and I want to see the report on the sales for today for this bar instead of the rest of the other bars, instead of having everything put together at the same place, I will go for the cost center because each of them will have different prices and different ways of arranging their things. So in order for me to see a specific one, I would choose, take for instance, I work for a bar and I want to see what has been sold, who sold a specific thing in my bar. I would choose my bar instead of maybe choosing maybe bar B. So I'll go for bar A, the main menu for bar A. And then if I'm going for bar B, I'll say main menu for bar B. I don't know how to explain it.
Okay, all right. Let me paint a scenario then. Probably you can understand and differentiate these two things for me. Okay, let's say for instance, I have an umbrella company. An umbrella company now, I mean like, I have a company. Okay, let me say, for instance, I have a company. I have a bar. Okay, I have a bar. For instance, you get a client. I have a company. As a client, you're coming to me now. I have a company. I have a bar. I have a restaurant, rather. I have a bar. I have a lounge. I have what else? I have a game center. I have a suya center, and also I have a bottle company, a bottle drink company. Now, when you're classifying this particular client, how do you differentiate a company from a cost center? Like, which of these things fall under a company and which one falls under a cost center?
Okay. Each of those, since it's all under one company, you get. Let's assume that the company is called Mohammed's conglomerate or whatever. And then Mohammed's conglomerate has different businesses, all run by him, you get. Each of those different businesses is a cost center on its own because they have their own prices. The bar will have its own prices for the same item. Same thing with the other ones will all have. So each of them is a cost center. I don't know if I'm right or maybe I need to explain.
Yeah, I'm getting you. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So each of those businesses will become a cost center. Each of them have their own menus. You get. So each of them are a cost center. So whenever you need to check on a record, on their records, you choose, let's say for the bar, I would choose the cost center for the bar because they have their own menu.
Okay, yeah, that's
true. Yeah, they have their own menu. Okay. So each of those businesses is a cost center.
So now, would you advise as a client now that I have a bottled water company, and I listed all of these other things? So would you advise me as a client, or as you that you're implementing this thing on the system, would you advise that this bottle company is also a cost center, like the suya joint and everything is also a cost center too?
Like, I don't understand. Like, the bottling company is different from the suya center in terms of their products. You get?
Yeah. Yes.
So are you saying, do I advise the man?
I am saying now that as a implementation person, as an implementation analyst now, you are creating, I am the client now, and you created, I explained to you the businesses I have and how I would like to monitor this business. Like we all know, I can always select which of these cost centers or companies I want to see their report or their business. So now, I've explained to you the kind of business I run. How would you advise I actually save these things on the system, these businesses on the system? How would you advise monitor these businesses? Do you advise I keep them all on cost center, or do you advise I actually split which on which to be a company? This question is actually going around.
For me, I'd advise, since it is all run by one person and I want to be able to, monitor all my businesses from one platform, all my sales, all my reports, everything on one platform. So I'd advise he creates the cost centers, because now I can pick and choose which one I want to see. So it's not all jumbled up. You get everything is like an umbrella. Everything is all in there under one umbrella, but different entities. So I would advise to go for the cost centers.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's fine. Please, did everybody hear my question? Eric, can you please come in?
Yeah, I can hear you, but the scenario you gave, I can't quite
Okay, let me
remember what you said.
revisit my scenario.
Yeah.
Okay, I said, I am a client now.
Yeah.
You are the implementation analyst, the implementation
Analyst.
person. And you came to me for to sell your system now. So I explained to you the kind of business I run. Okay, Mr. Eric.
Okay.
I have
Yeah.
a restaurant and I also have a bottled water company. Now, this restaurant, I have a gym center under this restaurant. I also have a suya center. I have a bar. I have a lounge under this restaurant. And now you are creating this system now. Which would you advise that all of these items, all of these businesses are under cost center, or would you advise some of them are actually standing on their own as a company? And if they are actually going to be standing on their own as a company, which one of these businesses would you advise I create a company for, or would you advise I put them all in a cost center?
That is outside then.
Sir?
So I'm coming. I'm coming. I got like a distraction. So which of these businesses? You said you have like the water bottling company, yeah? And you have like an hotel. Then under the hotel has like a gym, a bar. Yeah.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
The hotel has a gym, a bar.
Yes, I have a bar, a suya sports, a gym.
Yeah.
I also have a lounge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so for me, I will advise that for the bar, the lounge, those ones should be like a cost center. Then for the water bottling company should be like a separate entity. Water bottling, then maybe like the suya center should be like a separate entity from the hotel.
Okay, you would advise I make my suya center a company?
Yeah, like it should be on its own. Then let's say like the bar, the lounge should be like a cost center for, although bar and lounge, they are quite similar though. So but I think that's what I would advise the owner to do. So let the bar and the lounge be the cost center, then the water bottling company should be like an entity on its own.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Yeah, I don't know, but just that's what I feel. But if you can explain to me better, like the right way to do. All right.
Yeah, no problem. Please, Miss Freke, this name I must get.
Miss Freke.
Okay, Freke.
Okay, like Mr. Eric said, the water bottle company can be on its own and have its own different cost centers, while the lounge, the gym center, and the rest of it can be under the hotel as cost centers.
Okay. All right. Am I missing anybody? Yes, Mr. Mayowa.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, for me, I feel like the hotel, since the bar and the lounge kind of is kind of related to hotel services. Like, so I feel like the hotel should stand alone as a company, with the bottling company, while the bar, the lounge should be like cost centers. And what else did you mention again?
The Suya
The,
Center.
the Suya Center should be a cost center too. The Suya Center should be a cost center. The bar can be a company on its own. Yeah. But the Suya Center should be a cost center. The bottling company should be a company on its own, a separate entity. And the gym should be a cost center.
Okay.
So that's what I think.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time. That's nice. Okay. Now, in this situation, there's no right or wrong answer. It actually depends on the client now. But it is always advisable that in a situation like that, every company, this client might come tomorrow and tell you that this bottle water company would be having another section. Let's say they won't start producing pure water. So it is advisable that bottled water is a company on its own. And then you can now put whatever cost center they later decide to have. And then your suya, your gym and everything can now be a cost center. But either ways, the management or whether the owner of the company would have access to all of this. So it doesn't necessarily have to be just one. So the reason why we're bringing this in is that if you're working at the water producing company, and I am working at the restaurant's bar, on the system, we can easily restrict you as a water worker, the water producing company worker. We can restrict you alone to you to see only things that are happening in that angle. So the owner of the business doesn't need to worry that me as a restaurant worker, I am seeing what's happening in the water company. No, I don't need to see that. The system gives the permission to actually restrict these workers to only see things that are in their domain, things that actually concern their company. And this also will lead to some kind of restriction by position. For instance, as a restaurant waiter, I don't have any business with what's going on the HR level. I don't have any business with what's going on the accounting level. So permissions are restricted for each position. That's why I was asking who goes to the market and like a position, a ranking thing. So a procurement officer now gets the permission to impute these items. Like I said before, in a very big organization, let me say, where workflow are properly followed, where restrictions are actually followed. When, as a procurement officer, I raise this purchase order, I don't have the permission to actually approve this purchase order, and I don't have the permission to actually go further until this purchase order is actually approved. So in this situation now, for our purchase invoice or any of our documentation, if the company I'm actually receiving this item into is not the water company, let me take for instance. Let's say they bought new bottles into the company, and I am receiving those new bottles. I am definitely not going to be receiving these bottles into the restaurant. These bottles are actually going into the water company. So that's the difference. So for, in this case, I am receiving these items in the company I actually raised the purchase order for, and the company I received it into. So, like I said, we can always edit dates. And these items are actually brought forward once we create the purchase invoice or purchase order from the proposed purchase order. Once we create our purchase receipt and our purchase invoice from them, these items are brought further. But we can as well always search for our purchase order or our purchase receipt list, our purchase invoice list, and all that. So I'm going to be I'll be paying for this item now. And it's a check, it's paid, is checked. Now, all of this actually depends on permission. I am doing all of this because for the sake of this class. Usually in an organization where there are position ranking, it depends on who is actually in charge of what before you can actually get to raise purchase order of a
Sorry, ma, please, can I ask a quick question? No, sorry.
okay, it all depends on the permission you give to your workers. We're about to pay for this purchase receipt. Usually it is the accountant that has the permission to do this. But if you as the owner of the organization tells us that, okay, I want my manager to be the one to handle this, which is fine. It all depends on the permission and who is given what permission. So in this case, I'm going to be paying for this purchase order, so it can be about it. And I'm paying 95,000 naira. So my mode of payments, I gave out cash to my procurement officer and I gave him a complete cash, which is 95,000 naira. So like I said, once your document is on draft, you can easily edit the document. But once the document is actually submitted, you cannot edit such documents, except you create another one and you cancel the one you created, the existing one. So until a document is actually submitted, you can still edit such documents. You can still change whatever thing you want to change here. So I
Please,
paid
ma,
for the,
please, can I ask a question, ma? Sorry, ma.
yeah, sure.
The whole purchase cycle, like, is it we are going to generate a purchase order first before we will generate a purchase invoice? Like, can you just maybe give the order of the purchase cycle? And you made mention of the purchase receipt. That is the accountant that generates the purchase receipt. Like, I really don't really understand that. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Okay, usually the purchase invoice is usually generated by the accountant. This is not a must, but I'm just saying that from the little experience, it is usually generated by the accountants. Now, I won't say it's generated, it is paid for, because this purchase invoice is actually a payment cycle. It is actually to tell you as my manager or whatever that I have actually paid for this item. Now, this purchase circle is actually from 1 to 3. Like, one has to be done before another needs to be done. So between purchase order and purchase receipt, it is not a must. Depend on your workflow in your organization. But then, when a purchase order is raised, it is just to inform the department that needs to provide this item, or it is also to inform the management that these items are actually running low in stock and we actually need to refill this item. So a purchase order will now be raised to inform them instead of having to write a paper or to text them. This can be raised and attached to their mail, and they get their mail and get these things that are needed. Now, in a situation where your organization doesn't want to go through this purchase order, probably it's a one-man thing. Maybe the same person that runs the purchase also is the person in the store. Like, it might be just a one-way thing. You can skip the purchase order and do the purchase receipt instead. Are you getting me?
Like, are we going to generate a purchase order first before we generate a purchase invoice, then finally the receipt?
Yes, a purchase order needs to be generated. Like I said, depend on your organization. Now, you can as well skip a purchase order and go straight to a purchase receipt. But a purchase receipt needs to be available for a purchase invoice to be created.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So for a purchase order now, when a procurement officer creates this purchase order, it is assumed that these are the things that are needed in the store. These items might have reached their reorder level already, and this procurement officer feel the need to refill this item. Now, it could be that as a procurement officer, I am foreseeing that we are going to have larger crowd tomorrow, probably because it's a festive season. And we don't want to run short of some certain things. I go to my stock balance, I see the things that they're actually going to be needing more. The things, let's say, on festive period, the things that really move more up, let's say, ice cream, probably because of kids. Now, I've seen that in my store, I only have 3 ice creams available from my stock balance, or probably I have 10 ice cream available from my stock balance. Originally, this 10 ice cream can last me for the day, but because it's a festive period, I can't bank on that 10 ice cream. Then I will raise a purchase order. Now, for an organization that follows workflow, when I raise this purchase order, I attached or assigned it to someone in charge. Now, in a situation where I don't need to assign it, I don't need anyone approval, I take this purchase invoice, I assign it to the accountant because I need money to go to the market actually. So he gives me this money, I get to the market, I notice that, okay, I can't get the quantity of ice cream. I come back, I report and all of that. So it is just advisable that a purchase order is raised first to give the stock officer, the accountant, an heads up of what is going to be needed. So it is when this purchase order is made, then a purchase receipt can be made. But in a situation where I am the same person, I do everything, I raise the purchase order straight, I raise the purchase receipt when I bring this item in. But it is always advisable, it is necessary that this item go through a purchase order. Then from the purchase order, we raise a purchase receipt. Like I said before, we can usually raise these things from the plus sign or from this create option. We can as well just search. Okay, let me come back to this. Let me search for purchase receipt. So here are my purchase receipts list, showing me that all of these purchase receipts has actually not been paid for. We're still owing these people. Now, if I don't want to go through this purchase receipt thing, I don't want to go through the purchase order circle and all of that, I can easily add a new purchase receipt. But that way, I would have to impute my items one after the other for a purchase receipt. So this is it. So we're about to actually pay for a purchase order, for a purchase receipt. Now, this purchase receipt that we have here, we have the first one that we received, which was 89,500. And then we have another one that we received last, which was 5,500. But I want to pay from the purchase order that has the complete, the complete 89,000, 95,000 rather. So I'll be paying from the purchase order. So I still have my to be here. And I still have a purchase invoice, which is on draft. So now I would be paying half from this money, so we can actually see the progress of my purchase order status. So I won't be paying completely, but I will be coming back to it just for us to see the process, my purchase this order changing. So now I'm going to be paying, let's say 80,000. Okay. Already the status of my purchase receipt is now showing partly paid. It is no longer showing to bill. Now it's not partly paid. So this way I am able to track which customer I have paid and which customer I haven't paid. And also I can track which customer I have not paid completely. In this case, I am holding this particular supplier 15,000. That's the outstanding balance. So I want to go through my purchase order so we can also see. So I'm still owing, so I will have to add more to balance up my payments. I'm still owing 15,000 because I only paid 18,000 from the last time. So from these same documents, I will create a payment. And like I said, the good thing about creating this item from creating this document from an existing document is that it brings forward every details from that document. Now I have my mode of payments here, cash, and I have my outstanding balance here showing already 15,000. So over here already, I am seeing that this is the purchase invoice number. This is the total of this invoice number, which was 95,000 naira, and my outstanding balance is 15,000. So that way, I know this is what I'm paying. So I can still change these payments to whatever money I still want to pay. Let's say I still want to pay 10,000 or guys, still 5,000 naira I have to, for now. I'll come back and pay the rest. But let's say I'm paying complete with this amount. It's not good to know that. So I'll leave it at 15,000 since I'm paying, and my mode of payment is still cash. I can always change my mode of payment to whatever mode of payment I am using. So mode of payments are usually selected as you want them. So I'm still going to be using my cash because it's an open market. But in a case where I'm, let's say I'm paying to a supplier, it might be a bank transfer, it might be a bank check or something. But in this case, it's an open market and I'm paying with cash. So I'm saving and I'm submitting. And then the status of my purchase invoice changes to paid. So now it is updated to paid now. So over here, we can always filter for the days I want to see, for the date I want to see, for the status I want to see. Let's assume I want to see only clients that I am owing. So I can come over here to filter. And then over here, I click on status and equal it to probably items that are on draft, invoices that are on draft, invoices that have been returned, the ones that are partly paid, or the ones that are cancelled. Now we always have these are the different status attached to every invoices. We have the draft, the ones that have been returned. We have we have the cancelled. Okay, we have the ones that have been submitted. We have the paid, partly paid, unpaid. Now, the difference between unpaid and overdue. Please, can somebody help me with that? Difference between unpaid and overdue, when an invoice is unpaid and when it is overdue.
I think unpaid is still within the time frame, and overdue it's when it has passed the time frame.
I can't hear you.
I can't hear you if you can hear me.
Okay, I said unpaid could be when the. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, unpaid is when it's still within the time frame, the date, and maybe overdue is after the date the person was supposed to pay.
Hello.
Can you hear me now? Hello.
You're breaking.
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, I said unpaid could be within the time frame, the dates, like maybe you're supposed to pay on this particular day, and the person has not paid yet, but it's still within the time frame. But overdue is when the person has not paid even after the time frame.
Yes. Thank you very much for that.
So that explains. Unpaid and overdue. Now, when the invoice is on overdue, you can always filter for the suppliers or the market list that has actually stayed too long and needs to be paid for. Then you can always select any one of these statements that you want to see. Okay, for instance, let's say I want to see for only item I've paid for, because on this particular company, I'm not owing anybody. But let's say I just want to see for only items that have been paid for, because the only two status available here now is the paid and the cancelled. So I'm going to see for only items that are paid for, and then I'll apply the changes. So now we're having only the items that are paid for, with their dates and their total, showing me the invoice numbers here. I can always click on the invoice numbers to know the items by their name. to know the items by their name. So I can always click on this sales invoice. So that brings us to the end of this section. We're still coming back to this section next week. But that brings us to the end of this part of the class. Do we have any question, any observation you need us to do, or do you have a scenario you want me to look at?
Yeah, so I was wondering, like, can you please explain the difference between like a purchase receipt and purchase invoice? Because like I can't quite tell, because they do similar things.
Yeah, sure. Okay, any other question, please? We'll handle that. Okay, let me attend to yours first. Now, a purchase order and a purchase receipt actually do not do similar things. Oh, sorry, you said a purchase invoice and a purchase receipt.
Yes,
Now,
purchase
purchase
invoice and
receipt. A purchase receipt is to confirm what. Okay, I'm painting a scenario to answer that question. A purchase receipt is to confirm what I actually received as a store person or as anybody that's supervising the procurement officer. Now, I told the procurement officer to buy me 2 bama, and then my procurement officer bought me 1. Now, my purchase receipt helps me to actually impute how many quantity was actually bought in, so that by the time my inventory is being deducted in terms of production and sales, it's actually deducted from that particular one I received from the procurement officer. So this purchase receipt is a documentation that tells the store manager or the store supervisor of the quantity of items that were received into the store. While the purchase invoice is a payment form. This purchase invoice is actually, it actually shows the bills. It's a payment form where I pay the supplier or I pay the procurement officer. It's just a mode of payment or a form of payments and a form to actually notify the system that I paid for this item. This way, by the time it's affecting my accounting section, I know what I'm actually spending on and what I have actually bought, so it can balance on my profit and loss at the end of the day. So does that answer your question?
Yes.
Do we have any other questions, please? Any question from anyone? Okay. If we don't have any question, I guess we'll stop here for today and we'll continue by next week. Thank you very much for your time. It was actually nice having this section with you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you
I
for.
really enjoyed today's class.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for your teachings. I know.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So if you have an observation or you have a question we need to treat in the next class, just document it and we'll touch it in the next class.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and a very big thank you for everybody that made the class today. It shows your level of commitment you've shown so far for the past 3 days. And like Lami already said, this is just the first part of the inventory management and manufacturing class. The next class will be holding on Monday, so that we'll be sharing the link for the past 3 classes on the group. You can take the weekend to watch them all over again. And by next week, we'll be continuing with the class. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much. Bye. See you.